Hello everyone and welcome back to another Backlog Banter video. My name is Tucker, of course. As usual, I'm joined by my two-dimensional co-host, Abram Biener, and today we're here to talk about the possibility of a 2D Mario game releasing maybe this year, hopefully this year, and how it might just be, if you do a little analysis, a little data crunching, a little number crunching, one of the Switch's best-selling games, and therefore one of the Switch's best-selling games, and Nintendo's best-selling games of all time. It could get up there, and we have the numbers to possibly back this up. But if you want to talk to us about the Direct that may be coming on the horizon, or the 2D Mario game that may have just been announced, join our Discord to talk about that, to talk about anything else you want to. And of course, like this video, because it's gonna be a good time. Abram, can you agree? Will this be a good time?
Tucker, it will be a good time as long as this Direct actually happens and this Mario game is actually announced. Yes. Now, it's very unclear if either of those things actually will come to pass. I will just say, for posterity on camera, I don't think Nintendo's walking into a shareholders meeting on, I think, Friday with no games after Pikmin 4. So I am personally very confident that the Direct is happening. I'm not sure about this whole Mario game situation. This leaker does seem sort of oddly credible in sort of the things they predicted in the past, but who knows? We'll see. But
I heard they accurately leaked Greavard, the Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet.
Yes.
So any Greavard leaker is okay in my book.
Regardless of whether it comes to pass this week or not, Tucker.
Yeah.
When, and I'm going to say when, not if, when a new 2D Mario comes to Switch, it is going to be a very, very big deal.
Yes, absolutely. And we were doing a little bit of number crunching that we are going to be sharing with you guys here. That was proving why Nintendo might want to do this. Of course, 2D Mario is maybe like the video game franchise of all time. So it's not like they need to be told or need to be reminded, hey, making a 2D Mario is probably a pretty good thing for the video game fans and also your financial numbers. But they've also not done it in a long time. And I want you to present me with the thing that you started this whole conversation with, the fact to kill all facts, the one fact to rule them all.
First, I think I think my brain is being cut off from the rest of my head with this fucking hat on. I've had it for about 15 years. That's not really a joke. So, capture.
Woohoo!
Fuck it. Didn't work.
Bed Abram.
Dirty clothes. I say dirty clothes because I only actually have one. Actually, no, never mind. I've got 3 dirty clothes on my floor.
Sure.
Look at this line. I got a hat line.
Oh God.
Ignore the hat line by listening to what's coming out of my mouth, which is straight factual information.
Yeah.
I'm a Donkey Kong fan, Tucker, as you know.
It's really sad.
I love myself a little Donkey Kong. And the sort of refrain in the circles of people that enjoy Donkey Kong is, man, it has been forever since the last new Donkey Kong game.
Yes.
But
and it has.
It has. 100% it has. And I would much rather have a new Donkey Kong Country than a new 2D Mario. Mm-hmm. However, it has been even longer since the last original 2D Mario game. Now, this does need a couple caveats. Obviously, Super Mario Maker notwithstanding, but I think that you can make a very good argument for Super Mario Maker being its own series.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't count New Super Luigi U as a standalone release, it's actually a little bit longer. I don't know if I would, for the sake of this argument or not, but the point is...
within a year. It's within such a small time frame regardless that it doesn't really matter. But then also you think about what they have been holding over with, which is the Mario Maker games, which at their max, in terms of how new the art style was, it was 2D Mario... New Super Mario Bros. Look.
Right.
And then we also got a port of New Super Mario Bros. U with the New Super Luigi content in the form of U Deluxe on Switch. And that is that's the extent. That's the extent of what we got here from 2D Mario in the last decade or more.
You forget, what was that crown called? Bowsette's crown, Peach's crown, Toadette's crown.
That's a great point.
Peach's
That's a great
crown,
point.
Whatever the fuck it was, who knows? You can play as Nabbit in that game too.
It's true.
But the point is, Tucker, they've been really treading water.
Bramblebuckle. What are their names?
Bramball.
No, that's not true. Well, we digress. It's been a long goddamn time.
It's been a really fucking long time, and it's strange why, when you start to look at the financial picture, which we'll paint for you very shortly. However, there's no doubt that they've really just been treading water with this series. A port, another title, in the Mario Maker series, whatever. But it has been so long since we've seen a proper 2D Mario title, and if you want to say a non-new super title, you got to go back even farther.
Yeah.
So what's exciting about this moment is not only are we potentially on the precipice of a new 2D Mario game, period, we might be on the precipice of, for the first time in several decades, a new
our lifetimes.
Yeah,
actually,
a new take on 2D Mario.
Yeah.
The reason I wouldn't necessarily think of Super Mario Maker as that take is because it's a game that's so heavily predicated on its user-generated content that it doesn't really depict a vision for 2D Mario from Nintendo beyond they don't have a vision.
Yeah, and of course they made levels in those games, but the reason I would say that Nintendo does not position that as, hey, we're replacing traditional 2D Mario with the Mario Maker series, and maybe they did initially think that it could be that, but is that these games sell a microscopic fraction of what regular 2D Mario, core 2D Mario titles do. So you're a Nintendo and you're like, all right, Super Mario Maker is going to replace 2D Mario, and then you see that it's not doing the numbers. And you're like, this can't replace 2D Mario, because if we make a new 2D Mario title that does not have Maker in the title and is not predicated on user-generated content and doesn't have a major amount of what the game's design is behind making all sorts of little objects you can place next to one another, we can sell 6 times the amount of copies. Yeah. And that is a lot of money just waiting in the banks, in the pockets of their consumers.
Yeah, I mean, Super Mario Maker 2 is interesting in that you're right, that the game has a campaign, and I think the campaign is actually really good.
It is, yeah.
But they very clearly bungled any opportunity for it to be that replacement that you were saying that maybe they might thought it could have been at some point. Mm-hmm. I think there's a time and a place for Super Mario Maker 2 post-mortem, but the point is the game topped out at under 8 million copies. Yeah. That's as of December 31st, 2021, so I would say it's probably low 8 million copies at this point in time. That, Tucker, pales in comparison to what is even the most direct analog in the same platform, which is New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, which has and by the way, if people don't know, if you want to see Nintendo's top selling software, look up Nintendo IR data, and this will take you to the Nintendo Japan page, and you can see these for DS, Wii, 3DS, Wii U, and Switch. I'll actually leave this in the description. I think it's a really great resource, and this is constantly updated. Or updated with every one of their new sales reports. So New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe sold 15.41 million units.
And which is probably more, and even more than Mario Maker 2 is more, because that game just sells better. So it's probably sitting at, or actually no, is this entirely up to date?
This will be up to date.
Okay, my bad.
March 31st.
I made an assumption there that was incorrect, but it has sold a little bit more than that. But still, 2 times more.
Yeah,
than Mario Maker 2.
I think it's safe to say that it's probably doubled it.
Yes,
and that is sort of emblematic of the relationship that 2D Mario, core 2D Mario has to sort of all other Mario titles in its periphery. And we'll bring in 3D Mario into conversation in a second. But it's also important to note that New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe is not you would say maybe marquee release.
Sure.
And it's still done 15 million units. Mm-hmm. The point being is, and what we're trying to do here is unlock the minds of the audience, unlock your mind to the possibility of what a non-port original 2D Mario game could do.
Yes. And not only that, but it has been the longest amount of time, as we said initially, since 2D Mario existed, period, in terms of a new game, but also in terms of a new art style. People have been clamoring for this for a long time, and I think that is a bit of sales potential that can't really be factored into what we think the game will do, but we can only posit that it'll make it even more popular. If you remember, New Super Mario Bros. On DS coming out was a big deal, not only because it had been blank a long time since a core 2D Mario game had released, but it also was an entirely new, a fresh way to look at that series. And then that got driven into the ground and became a huge meme. And now it's been that, but way worse and for longer.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it would have been the gap between Super Mario World and New Super Mario Brothers DS. Yeah. Which I believe was 16 years.
Jeez. Okay. So it had been about that point in time, that amount of time. But 2D Nintendo platformers also existed in way higher frequencies
Right.
at that point of time, especially on the GBA and the DS and stuff like that.
I think you're right in saying that we're in a marketplace is probably primed for new
Yeah. Yes.
2D Mario game. And I think the other important thing to note, as we're going to get into, is that 2D Mario is a very casual series.
Yeah.
And I think New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is a testament to that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people bought Switch, right?
Yeah.
And
Really?
a lot of people love Mario
Mm-hmm.
because the combined sales totals for the New Super Mario Bros. U iterations is 24.3 million.
Okay.
So there's a significant margin. I believe it's by about 4 million units. If I look here, no, it's more than that. It's about 10 million units. I apologize, I was completely wrong. Between the original and the port, so there's a significant growth in appetite there.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to note a significant growth in appetite for Mario as a brand wholesale in light of the film's release.
Absolutely.
So if you take the idea of a Mario as this series that is multifaceted but has these very lucrative casual parts,
Yeah.
and you look at the fact that the highest grossing film of the year, probably which will not be beaten, I can't imagine.
No. God, no.
That being as successful as it is, the idea of this holiday season there being a bundle that includes the new 2D Mario game, a Switch OLED, and maybe even like a redemption code for the film is a very, very, very strong proposition. So I think that we are in a situation right now that is very conducive for this game.
Yes. And not only that, but as we're pausing this whole video, it being one of the Switch's best-selling games, because another piece of context for this game releasing into a very lucrative atmosphere is that the Switch is the hottest-selling Nintendo basically anything ever, and almost every franchise on it, especially the biggest ones, get a major bump in sales and popularity from this. If you look at each sub-series of Mario titles, which have always been popular and always been the core of all of their systems, the Switch tops almost all of them. The examples notwithstanding of like Super Mario Bros. On NES, because it's been re-released so many times and was a pack-in title, that does beat some of the other ones. But in terms of 2D Mario, 2D Mario is the only Mario series, period, that does not have a Switch version at the top of its sales charts. Odyssey is the best-selling 3D Mario. Of course, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best-selling Mario Kart. The Mario Party games have sold the best on Switch. And so, can you imagine what a 2D Mario, which traditionally, it's time to get into the sort of number crunch and breakdown, sells more than all of those, usually combined? What kind of atmosphere that kind of game could be released into, with the appetite and the install base and the popularity of the Switch and the popularity of Mario at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, you raise a really important point in this conversation, which is that 2D Mario performs so much higher than 3D Mario, which I think is an interesting point to draw. And it's also interesting then to draw in where Odyssey is right now as an interesting benchmark.
Actually, looking at the best-selling Mario platformer games, only the core releases, Odyssey is the only one in the top 10 that's a 3D Mario game. Every other release, not 10, but close enough to that every other one is some version of 2D Mario.
Right. And so Super Mario Odyssey about doubled the sales of Super Mario Galaxy. Galaxy did 12.8 million, whereas Odyssey's at this point you could probably call it 26.
Yeah.
With a little bit of rounding. Now, Super Mario Galaxy 2, if people are curious, sold worse than Galaxy 1 by a fairly significant margin, actually. It's about a 5 million copy difference. But bear in mind just this inherent jump in 3D Mario, because that's it's going to be an important point of comparison later. But then just keep that in your mind. Now let's think about the Wii. Okay. If you look at the list of the top-selling Wii software, obviously Wii Sports at 82 million is hard to beat, but that was also a pack-in, so that's a little bit of a tricky proposition, I think. Wii Sports Resort at 33 million is number 3, but number 2 is Mario Kart Wii at 37 million copies, and at number 4 is New Super Mario Bros. Wii at 30 million copies.
Yeah. Within a very close margin for those two. Now, actually, all those titles.
Yeah. Look at Nintendo DS. New Super Mario Brothers did 30 million units. Mario Kart DS did 23 million units.
Yeah.
For the sake of argument, let's just open up 3DS as well. Mario Kart 7 did 18, almost 19 million units, whereas New Super Mario Bros. 2 did 13 about.
Okay.
Even look at Wii U, just so we have all the figures. 8 million for the base Wii U version of Mario Kart 8, and then 5, almost 6 million for New Super Mario Bros. U, that base version. There is a strong correlation in the best-selling systems of the New Super Mario Brothers era, wherein Mario Kart and 2D Mario perform similarly, and they perform incredibly, incredibly strong in every case.
And also, on all of these cases, significantly better than their 3D Mario counterparts, which actually, missing one piece of its Triforce, is still true for the Switch. We have not gotten the 2D Mario to complete that trinity, but Odyssey is the highest selling 3D Mario by over double what is next down. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still vastly outselling that by almost 1.5 times as much, it being one of the highest selling video games of all time. And so even if you imagine, okay, it's a little bit late in the Switch's life cycle, but that also means that there's a bigger install base, and future projecting, maybe their next system allows to play older games. This could release into a place where it can exist for the next generation and slot in, even if it doesn't beat Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is a tall proposition. Basically, very few games ever have done that. It can slot in very nicely between that big gap between Odyssey and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which it could be, again, one of the greatest selling games of all time, and probably even the highest selling 2D Mario of all time.
Yeah.
Or possibly.
I mean, there is one other interesting correlation to just bring up, which is that for both 3DS and Wii U, the sales of 3D Mario and the sales of 2D Mario are very close, within about a million of each other. Super Mario 3D World, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe are actually within about 10,000 units of each other. Is that right? Did I do those numbers right? Yes. Can
you just say they're close?
They're very close.
Yeah. What's actually interesting about 3D Land and 3D World, though, being sort of commensurate to the sales, is that those are by far the most similar 3D Mario games to 2D Mario games, which is very interesting.
Yeah, so as I might have just misspoken there, but it's a 3D World New Super Mario Bros. U pair and the New Super Mario Bros. 2 and 3D Land pair are both very, very close, within a million of each other, about 500,000 units on the 3DS titles. So the point being, even if you took Odyssey as a benchmark, this game selling 25 million plus units would easily put it into a position wherein it's maybe in the top 5 all best selling games on Switch. Now you also make an interesting point about it being late in the life cycle, and I think that's true, but it's also important to remember the rate of software sales now is incredibly, incredibly high. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we over the last year, just the last year as a sample size, we've had 3 different games take the fastest selling slot in their series in Japan all time, with Splatoon 3, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, all having incredible superlatives of, oh my god, this is selling so fast, it's selling so much, yada yada yada. 2D Mario can also add itself to that pile. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. So Splatoon 3 is not actually in the list of best-selling software. However, Scarlet and Violet easily is, and there's also no doubt that when we get the next quarterly results, Tears of the Kingdom is going to be very, very high. I mean, Tears of the Kingdom did, what is it? About a third of what Breath of the Wild did over its lifetime in 3 days. Yes. So there's no doubt that those numbers are going to be huge. Basically, I think it primes the pump for 2D Mario, which I think is a release of a similar scale of importance to 3D Zelda. I think it's quite possible that we see it to, sell very, very quickly and then maintain. I think this is a title that no doubt will maintain its sales trajectory over a long period of time. Yeah. Because now it sort of becomes a new de facto title. You get a Switch. Absolutely. You get 2D Mario. You might even, if you're Nintendo, just start bundling this with everything. And that would, like some of these other games we were talking about,
Super Mario Brothers on the NES, and both that and Wii Sports being pack-in titles, rocketing those up to, like, by default, some of the best-selling games of all time. By a little cheesing, but still, regardless, being in that conversation, I think what's interesting of this and Tears of the Kingdom, this potential game, and Tears of the Kingdom will be very, we'll be able to glean a lot of information of how Nintendo games sell by comparing these to the other best-selling games on the Switch, which outside of New Horizons are mostly in that first few year time period, and have been selling consistently over the entirety of the Switch's life cycle and continue to do so. And now we're having some big late gen releases, and if they continue to sell, okay, that means that the time span of when they're released in the life cycle of the system doesn't really impact it, because they're just going to sell regardless.
Yeah, I think it's just got a very, very strong future. And it's also important to remember that the 3D titles, 3D Land and 3D World, were also pack-ins for a lot of their life. I mean, I don't think you could buy a 2DS without either stumbling across a copy of Mario Kart 7 or Super Mario 3D Land. So
true.
And the 3D World bundle on Wii U, I believe, was...
That's how I have 3D World.
Yeah, it was one of the few marquee bundles. So I think if they bundle this right and they sort of play their cards correctly, it's going to be enormous.
Yeah.
I think that even if they fuck it up, it'll be enormous, frankly.
Well, of course. And the thing is, I just can't see this being anything less than revolutionary, frankly, for this sub-series, because it has been so long and the clamoring is there for something new. And having Mario have a new identity with the film, I've long said that it would be kind of cool to see a little bit of synergy between the two. I don't think that'll necessarily be the case. I think it would be interesting and certainly be great marketing for this game. But regardless, giving a new identity to 2D Mario, especially on the precipice of starting a next generation, could be a big thing for Mario feeling fresh in a way that the Switch has been able to sort of work towards with something like Odyssey. But we're still playing the same Mario Kart and 2D Mario that we were in the beginning of the Wii U generation. And then the two of those have their roots way farther back than that. The of course, New Super Mario Bros. Lineage starts back in 2006, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe being obviously the best and the most prettiest of this modern area of Mario Kart, but you can draw those roots back to Mario Kart DS as well. So revamping all of that, even with the next Mario Kart coming out on presumably the next system, I think the dominoes are in a very interesting place to start falling. You start the dominoes falling with releasing a 2D Mario, then we're ready for the next 3D Mario, and then by the time that's out, we're ready for the next Mario Kart, and it's just like boom, 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 boom. That's a kind of momentum that almost never happens.
You're totally right. And I think you're also really right about this being a potential for a new creative step.
Yeah.
And that, as you're saying, the roots of these Mario games, for the most part, aside from Odyssey, and that's kind of it, frankly.
Yeah.
It can be traced backwards. If you look at the spin-off games, like, there's no doubt that Aces, for as fresh as it is built directly on top of Ultra Smash, for instance.
Absolutely.
And Mario Maker 2, you take that right back to 2015 with Mario Maker 1 on Wii U. So it's a very exciting moment, as you're saying, to do this reinvention for the series, because you're right, because we talk about often how the Switch has reinvented or revitalized a lot of series. And there's no doubt that it did that for 3D Mario, but there's also a good margin of doubt as to whether it did that for Mario as a whole.
Yes.
So you bring in a new Mario game that is going to be probably the market leader outside of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in terms of Mario Switch era titles. That's a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I do anticipate that whatever this game looks like, it will be exciting. And I was just actually pondering. I like to ponder sometimes.
Let's ponder.
Sometimes
we got through all the business. We talked about all the fluff, numbers. It's time to ponder.
Sometimes I ponder.
Grab your orbs, everyone.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Do I have any orbs? I don't have any orbs
inside. Oh, I've got something akin to an orb.
You have an orb?
A bomb.
You have a bomb. Okay.
All right.
That's good enough. I think that's enough. That's one orb is plenty of orbs, probably. I was just imagining the idea that we're on the precipice of seeing what a new Mario game could look like.
Okay.
Because this leaker, you could take them at their word or not. I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence about their validity. Because again, we're speaking about a hypothetical game here that hasn't been announced. They did say that new would not be in the title of this
Yeah.
game. I think that that's probably true.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
And so because of that, it'll be very exciting to just see what does it look like to reinterpret 2D Mario.
Yeah.
I'm not of the opinion that they would reinterpret fundamental gameplay.
Sure.
I think that you'll be clearing stages. I think you'll be jumping on flagpoles.
Yeah.
I think there'll be a timer. I think there'll be a score. I think you'll be able to play with 4 people.
Interesting. Okay.
Some
of those elements I think can be left behind. I think that the score on the timer, the timer maybe, but I don't think a 2023 game will have a fucking score in the top corner.
You don't think so? I mean, we'll see.
I don't think so at all.
I just, yeah, I mean, we'll see. But my larger point, because I don't want to get hung up on the score, because the score has never mattered, and I don't want to pretend like the score matters now.
Yeah.
It's the aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to look like the movie. We've talked about this on the channel before, how sort of the guiding star for that movie is really maybe more synergy with the theme park than it's sort of synergy with the games. Yes. If anything, it follows the games. It's very, believe it or not, very referential to tropes and iconography and things of the established Mario series. It doesn't introduce the new power up that could then come to the games. It doesn't
That's a great point.
Like that.
Yeah.
So I think though that it could certainly take cues from it, but by and large, I just think that we'll see a different look at the Mushroom Kingdom than we saw with Mario Brothers, New Super Mario Brothers. My main hope, my number one hope, because we've never seen this in 2D Mario, would be environments that feel cohesive and as though they have an internal sense of place, which is what Donkey Kong Country has in spades, which is part of the reason why I love Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah.
So that'd be my big hope, and I don't think it's impossible that we see a game with much, much denser, interesting, and logical art direction.
Yeah. And I think that would be a really cool way to put very loose, but some kind of synergy with the film, because the film actually did the best, most coherent Mario world we've ever seen. I mean, you take a look at what Peach's castle and the surrounding Mushroom Kingdom area is, there's nothing like that in the game, and they've never even really attempted it, especially not in 2D Mario, where for the last 2 decades, it's been a New Super Mario Bros. Where they're using the same copy and paste fucking model, and there's a cake, and there's Bowser. I think that it can be kind of what Galaxy and Odyssey did to 3D Mario, of giving it some sort of fresh context. And even that, it'll be Bowser at the end, more than likely. Peach might be involved, she might not. These things exist for Mario staples, but even just visiting something like the opening section of Odyssey, it's largely the same structurally, but it still feels very different because it's stepping outside of what we've seen 20 times before and giving it a fresh name, not new, and then putting a new kind of word at the end. We've gotten a land, we've gotten a world, we've gotten a 3. Who the hell knows what it's going to be? I think that even just that base name level is kind of exciting to think about. We'll never be able to nail it down what it could be, but a new name, a slightly different context, a slightly more coherently designed world. I think for me, a new character would be very interesting. Something to sort of hang this game's identity on, where they can show up in other games. Of course, we'll get a new power-up or 2. But even that, we haven't gotten any of that new in years and years and years.
Yeah.
Peachet's fucking crown does not count. That is the only example. And I think it's very exciting. And I'd even like to see if they incorporate some of the ideas and complexity of level themes and variety that they approached with doing Mario Maker, because that's also something we haven't talked about. Is this will be their first new 2D Mario game since they made 2 Mario Maker games, technically 3, because there was 3DS, which had a whole slate of its own levels, and then Mario Maker 2 had a whole campaign made by that team, and they were very different. There was more puzzle-focused ones. There were ones that were musical-themed.
Yeah.
These elements, I think, probably won't be wholesale taken from that, but it's a kind of creativity and thought process of level design that had never been attempted in this series to that point, and now we'll be seeing them continue on that creative path into something that is more focused and hopefully a step forward.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I wouldn't count on it being a complicated game.
Sure.
I wouldn't count on it having complex mechanics. I think it's important to note that there's no doubt that a lot of the reason that New Super Mario Bros. Sold so well is because it was very easy. And I don't mean that in terms of just like the physical dexterity you need to get through the game,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very easy to understand. It's very easy to look at that game and get through it. It's very easy to reach Bowser. It feels very comfortable knowing that, oh, I'm playing as the Super Mario Brothers and I have to rescue Princess Peach and there's Bowser at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
That's part of the appeal. I've always believed that part of the limiting factor of 3D Mario games is not only that 3D games are inherently much harder for non-gamers to control,
True.
but also that the games are just way more fucking complicated.
Yeah.
We might not look at a game like Super Mario Odyssey that's a complicated game,
Mm-hmm.
but I think a lot of people that have probably tried to give Odyssey to their friends or family who don't play video games can attest to that is not an understandable game for a lot of casual
absolutely.
people. But New Super Mario Brothers is very, very understandable. So I think that that sort of philosophy will remain. That's why I kind of hang my hat on the aesthetic changes they're going to make.
Sure.
I would love to see some more interesting actual level gimmicks, and I'm sure we will. But I wouldn't count on this being a game that's predicated on puzzle solving or predicated on exploration or anything.
And I don't think that's necessarily what I was indicating, but I do think that you could feel a difference in how the levels are designed, or especially in the variety of what each level gimmick is. I don't necessarily think they'll be complex, but I think a lot of new ideas have been dredged up in this team by not only making their own levels, but seeing what levels millions and millions and millions of people have made. I mean, there's no way that doesn't influence them in some way, and we've never seen them deliver that in a fresh and focused package. So, regardless, this game is incredibly exciting, and frankly, for the most of the Switch's life cycle, I've thought, okay, we'll probably get a new kind of 2D Mario game. I'm not really into 2D Mario, it's whatever, but thinking through all of these different steps of it's been so long, and it can sell so well, and they have new creative juices, not only from presumably new faces and new minds being brought to this team, but a new perspective after making different kinds of games for a longer time than they ever had between core 2D Mario games. And it's just a really cool idea to see Mario be reinvented for, frankly, the first time since you and I became cognizant of 2D Mario. I mean, New Super Mario Bros. On DS was the first 2D Mario game I ever played. And it was the only one for the longest time, and that aesthetic has remained up until 2019 when New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe was released. And I don't care about it. I think it's the least interesting Mario aesthetic we've ever had. And just thinking about what they can do to bring it for the next decade, even if it means that this next aesthetic is kind of shoved into the ground over a course of a couple games, I still think that having that refresh point is very important and is very exciting.
I totally agree. I mean, when you really look at the Mario Maker 2 tool set, there are very few things that you can do in one of the core Mario games that you cannot do in Mario Maker.
Yeah.
The Mario team has given people access to ostensibly everything that has ever existed in a Mario game previously.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to push way further beyond that. So they're at an interesting inflection point, as you're saying, where they're not only reinventing the series, but what they've done is they've deconstructed their own video game.
Yeah, they have.
They've handed those tools back to the player. And I'm sure that in doing so, they must have learned a lot of very, very interesting things, not only from looking at what other people were making, but from the processes of reverse engineering Mario down to a simple, understandable tool set.
Yeah, yeah.
So now you have a team that that understands their games backwards and forwards, but literally, because they disassembled them so we could build our own. And so I think that when you've put that much time into understanding how your game operates on a literal pixel by pixel level, and you have, as all of Nintendo's teams have, a very strong continuity of talent, they are in a position where they could very comfortably trust each other and trust their knowledge to do what Aonuma and Fujibayashi did for Zelda, for Mario. So, Tucker, this game doesn't exist. We don't know that it exists. We're posting this video. By the time it renders, God knows when, but within hours of potentially a lack of a direct announcement that could foil any and all hope we have here. But the point remains salient that one day there will be a new 2D Mario.
Yes.
And one day everything we outlined here will come to fruition.
Yeah. This video is future-proofed even if there's not a direct. Yeah. Because everything we said still remains true for whenever the next game releases, even if it is a launch title for the next system, which It's not the worst idea in the world.
No, it's actually a very good one.
Yeah. But we will see you guys for that hopeful direct. Or, you know what? How about this? We'll see you guys when the next direct happens.
We'll see you before then, too.